I walked over. I'm like, "You giving those away?" He's like, "Absolutely." And I grabbed. My kids didn't see me; they kept running, and I caught up to them. But I remember turning it around, and I kept running, so I've
Yeah.
got chocolate all over my
Yeah,
face.
yeah.
He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm eating a
Fueling
donut."
up, baby. I got to getting fuel, man.
Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. Here at Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer here at the Center for Victory. Back once again, my hype man.
Let's
As
go.
we like to call him. And Chief Adventure Officer here at the Center for Victory, Mr. Caleb Kolb. Welcome back, bro.
Hey, good to be here. Good to be back. Good to be back.
So we've got a lot, even more to talk about. You know, we've started the spring with getting out and doing a couple adventures. You went without me a couple of times, and I've forgiven.
Invite's always there, man.
I've
You're
forgiven you. I
busy
just had
guy.
some serious FOMO, but really happy for you because you took on, especially one that was both were challenging, but I mean, one specifically you wanted to go after. The first one you went after, but we have some things coming up with our program here, AMP, inside of Center for Victory, and we want to make people more aware of those things. And this is just one of those ways to do that. I mean, AMP, what we want to do is adventure, mission, purpose. We want to get people out, get things going. For them, I think it's very important, and that's what we'll be talking about today.
Yeah.
Is really getting out of your comfort zone, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And why that's important. I mean, getting out. I mean, it was last year we did a few adventures together. We went and conquered Mount Fuji, which I thought was going to be a little lighter than it was.
Yeah, when you watch the videos on the internet, it seems like, oh, this is no problem. And then you get there and it's raining for 12 straight hours and cold and
cold and wet.
Cold and wet, man.
You're okay with being cold. You're okay with being wet. You just don't like being cold and wet.
Yep. And you know what? Who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody and they threw Hungary into the mix.
Oh, yeah.
Like any one of the, if you're 3 out of 4, it's tough. Cold's fine, wet's fine. Cold and wet's not fun, but cold, wet, and hungry is about as low as it can get.
Yeah. I can say I was not like that would have been a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I have my caloric intake dialed in. It's very scientific. I get 2 egg McMuffins and a sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle before my big hikes. That's the last meal off, before I get to the trail every morning. So
wow.
It's like a $17 McDonald's meal for the day.
Yeah. So mine is I'm still learning mine. I have not dialed mine in because Fuji was okay. Then I got to the canyon last year.
Yeah.
And I thought I was literally going if I wouldn't have had anything in my pack.
Yeah.
And people gave me food too. And I don't usually eat that at all. Like my caloric intake, I don't even know. Because when we got out, I mean, I housed a whole large, housed it.
That pizza.
Yeah. I'm not exaggerating. Like I was like double decker.
And I'll tell you, Fuji too was a little, my perception, and I guess this is just my ignorance, my perception going into this is we're going to be getting hibachi and sushi, that's the Japanese food that I eat here, and then we get there and it's a lot of just soup, I'm like, oh, I did not expect this.
Yeah. The soup was good at the top though.
Tell you what, they got to figure it out, putting a little hut at the top for some ramen or miso soup, man.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons that we do it, I mean, I think I've given you some credit with getting me back out and going, and I think that was fantastic. I mean, I can't really thank you enough for really pushing me, because I used to, when I was younger, I used to just go on my own.
Yeah.
College, I had my own pack. I wish I still had that, because it was
like
weird.
The external frame.
It was weird looking.
Yeah.
But had all that and would go, and then just kind of stopped as I got in. But I mean, I really noticed it a little bit younger and older than me, my age group really needs to kind of get out and have some other experiences and why they're so important. I thought we'd kind of unpack that
Yeah.
today. We talk a lot about it. We talk a lot about it,
Yeah.
with people, but we talk a lot about it with ourselves, just getting out, um, and doing things. But if I just ask you the question before we get into some of the notes and everything that we have, why do you think it's important to
To,
be uncomfortable?
uh, all right. Why do I think it's important? I think it grows you. I think it makes you a little more, it makes you more resilient. I think it makes you makes people a little grittier. I think, it allows harder tasks to be easier the next time you do them, or facing challenges, facing adversity. I think it's almost like training for that, and it doesn't have to be physical. Like that's kind of what we,
Mhm.
kind of veer towards is more of like the physical discomfort because you get the physical and the mental at the same time. And having to get through that and push through that. And I think, bottom line for me, I think it grows you. And I felt this way for a long time since I climbed my first mountain. I told that story on a different podcast, but I didn't understand like, I thought that was just me. Like I thought I was like, oh, like this is amazing. Like now I'm like I need to go do these things. And then, when you gave me that book and I read it, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of science behind um, you know, why these things help. And I think, there's a comfort addiction that
Yeah.
that kind of society falls into where it's just everything we do, our phones are, we want to make life more comfortable. And it's nice those are things are convenient. I'm not going to give up my phone anytime
Yeah.
soon, but like I think there's benefit to just stepping back from that and challenging yourself. And so I guess that's my
Yeah.
answer.
So the book Caleb was referring to that, I had mentioned a bunch of these things like as I was lecturing. So I can't remember who I have to give credit for getting me this book. So if you're watching, let me know. Uh, it's called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. I mean, there's other books obviously that we read, but I like how, he sums up some of these things, in the book. One of the things that we've always talked about, Caleb, is this whole idea again with the Japanese, going to Fuji last year, this whole idea of Masogi. I think we've Americanized it, but it's
Yeah.
just something that needs to challenge you. You need something.
Yeah.
You need something that's going to push you, that's going to get you a little bit uncomfortable, to stretch your mind, to stretch you physically,
Yep.
stretch you mentally. I like how they word it though in the book, right? A Masogi is um, it needs to push you. But rule number one,
Don't die.
it needs to be that's two.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
real too.
Rule one is it needs to be really hard, and rule two, don't die.
Yeah.
Right. But when you think about that, and this is why I want to get clear with people because sometimes when I work with people, they're on the spectrum, meaning they some can only accomplish certain things, but others are further down the road
Mhm.
and they need to be pushed farther. A Masogi for somebody could be climbing Fuji,
Right.
but for some, it could be walking a mile.
It could, yeah. And it's kind of funny how all this came together because I don't know if you showed me or I started following Jesse Itzler on Instagram.
What was, yeah, that was just like today. You've got your notes ready. We didn't talk
We
a
didn't
whole
even
lot
talk about what we, yeah.
about this, and we've got the same topic. Yeah, I was getting ready to send you that video,
Yeah.
and you sent it to me.
And then and it was about the Masogi, and then you gave me this book, The Comfort Crisis, which talks about Masogi, and I got dialed into it pretty quickly. And essentially the one thing is, with your Masogi, you need to pick something that is impactful. So you do something that challenges you so much that it has an impact on you every day for the rest of the year. Like every day you can look back on that. And then, Jesse adds different things like winning habits
Mhm.
and deleting, reducing negative habits once a quarter and things like that. But the first one was Mount Washington in the wintertime. And I saw that Jesse did this and he's done like rim to rim to rim. He does ultra marathons and all things like that. And he was talking about doing Mount Washington in the wintertime. Mount Washington is the highest mountain in the presidential range. It's in New Hampshire. It's has the highest recorded wind speed in the world, 231 miles an hour. And it can be a very dangerous mountain. And so I was watching this video, and there's maybe like a month left of winter, and I'm like, oh, I found my next one. Like, I'm doing this. So, and that's how Mount Washington happened. And then that led to Mount Whitney. And it just, kind of just continues building from there. So,
Yeah. And, so I can't, obviously we did the canyon rim to rim last year. I can't claim that. Like that was last year's for me.
yeah, you got now.
Yeah. I'm still going this year.
Yeah.
But my point is, it's not, I was actually talking to, one of our friends, Brian Hess, who went with us last year, is going to go again. And we were talking. He's like, hey, look, I know it's not going to be as difficult this year because you know what to expect.
I think the fear of the unknown, it hits people a lot. Like, we were on a Zoom call last week about it. And there's, for people that's their first time, they have a lot of questions that are very nervous. Once you do it, like, okay, I can do this. I know I can do this. I've done it before. Yeah. So,
yeah. Yeah, when I look at those things, he was saying, yeah, it's not going to be as difficult, but we will have people that are going to be there for the first time. Like if you're listening or watching and you want to go, you could check out, we have an AMP site on the Center for Victory site. So just centerforvictory.com. And if you want to go into the experiences tab, you can get that. The other thing here is like with the Muskogee, like when we look at the research you were talking about, I'm kind of that, brain guy, but I don't know if I would call it that. I geek out on that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But when you push that, right, and you get out of your comfort zone, because people will say, well, I don't know if I could do that. Well, you don't know. That's the point.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that is important to note, because this is really what I got from Jesse, is like, you and I, like the physical side is where we veer towards, right? Like doing something physically tough, because it challenges you mentally, it challenges you physically. But he gives examples, like it could be, maybe it's like stopping smoking. Like you've been smoking for 20 years and that's your Muskogee for the year. Or it could be launching that business that you've been thinking about and you've been kind of too scared to pull the trigger on. So it doesn't have to be physical, but it has to be something that will impact you so much that, it's something you can look back on for the, it's meaningful.
Could be getting that first book outline done. Yeah. That's hers. Yeah. And she, man, I can't wait for that because, nor can anybody else.
Yeah.
She's a lot smarter than me. So I can't wait till she gets that out.
We both scored high in that category. We married up,
Yeah. So the other thing in this book, Caleb, I don't know if you want to talk to it, but the chapter, it was called 50, 70, 90. What does that mean? And should we pay attention to that? So when we look at things, it was actually, he was talking about another guy that was like a Muskogee evangelist in there in the book. Again, the book was Comfort Crisis. That's what we're talking about. But what is that?
So essentially that chapter is, what he talks about is we all suck at new things.
Yeah. Okay.
And he says, but clumsily existing our own comfort zone offers way too many upsides to ignore. The slowing down of time is something Parrish told me that happened in Muskogee. I become incredibly focused on the task at hand. He said, when I look back on Muskogee, that was a few hours. It seems like days, but I remember every detail. And I think that's, for the canyon, it's a lot longer than a few hours. That's, probably 15. But just, I don't know. I mean,
well, I just think when we get out, like I have always said, and I didn't create this, but I said it on the call the other night, and the lady like wrote it down that was on the call with us. I was like, change of pace, change of place, change of perspective.
Yep.
I mean, and I really got that. Well, I get it all the time when we go out, but like I've really felt like, they talk about being in that flow state in here.
Yeah.
When you're, when you hit that point where you are uncomfortable, but it stretches you.
Yep.
and you get to that point where it's just you're locked in.
Yes.
I felt a lot of that, just calm, peace,
Yeah.
happiness. When we were at Glacier, I was
Yep.
just because you can't.
Being where your feet are is not, that's I think the path to greatness is paved with discomfort, and so if you can get into that flow state, and that same thing happened to me on Whitney. We left, we started the shoot. We woke up at 2 a.m. and you want to start this climb up the chute before the sun comes up,
This
because
is your second day.
yeah, this is day 2 on Mount Whitney, and you want to start this shoot before the sun comes up, because once the sun comes up, the sun melts the ice on the chute. It becomes slushy. It becomes much harder. And so, for me, it really happened. It took us 2 hours to get up the chute. And then from the chute to the summit is along the trail crest. And that's another 2 hours. And that's really where it hit me, because, I was guiding my friend and his fiance, and, it's like, okay, we are going to finish this. It's really hard right now, but we've already done, arguably the hardest part, and it's just one foot after the other. And you just kind of like zone into that. And it's another 2 you're still 2 hours away, but I still remember, I remember every part of that. And just the reward of that, because it was really fun, and that's another reason I like to guide, is just seeing how much that impacts the clients of people that we're taking. And, that they are able to do it. You are able to climb the tallest mountain in the lower 48. And, my friend who did it with me, he was a client of ours when he started training with us. He had a lot of back injuries from combat. He's a disabled veteran. And he couldn't even bend over to pick up a pencil. And
Well, he couldn't walk without a cane. Right?
yeah, I mean, he was walking with a cane at one point. Yeah. And now he's climbing Mount Washington, climbing Mount Whitney, and he's just bought into it, and that's, I don't think the physical side is for everybody, but I think, experiencing that, it's something to think about, and something that really to reflect on afterwards, because I think it does really change you, and
well, the other thing too, I think that people aren't comfortable with talking about discomfort, getting into discomfort, is being disconnected. Like when you drop down into the canyon, you're disconnected for at least 12 hours.
Yeah.
Right. Until you get to any, like, unless you're completely sprinting through that thing, which we don't see many people do. And then when we were out in Glacier, I mean, you get past what point it was, and there's nothing. Like, you just have to, like you said, be where your feet are. And I think that is uncomfortable for people. Nowadays. I mean, that's a set of,
and it's funny too, because it's, and I've talked about this too, is like, it just seems like every trip that we do, life is busy. We're all busy. And so you're always second guessing yourself, like, should I be doing this right now? I've got 3 projects back home. People were relying on me. Like I need to be doing all these things. And I love calling my wife, telling her I'm turning my phone off for the next 3 days. Like, and it's so, it puts you in this mindful perspective where, you're forced to just, like I said, be where your feet are, and notice the things around you, and talk to other people, and that's one of the things that I was trying to get going. I coached high school wrestling, and, it's a lot different than when we were in high school. The kids are just on their phones constantly. It's like, we need to get these kids out, experience a little bit of challenge, and be forced to interact with each other, and, I think there's a lot of benefit from that. And I think it builds the culture. It builds culture and resilience. And so.
Yeah. What happens? Like, I wasn't planning on asking you that, but you bring up a good point. Like, what happens? Obviously, I know this because I've seen it. What happens when we do those things together? Like, obviously, we've had a lot of good. I don't think we'll ever stop talking about our experiences together. I mean, Fuji sucked.
Yeah.
But I'll never, like, I have that picture still on my phone of when we have 2 smiling faces.
Yeah.
Both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're smiling for the camera, big smiles. And it was just absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you can think about it. You're smiling too, thinking about that. that picture, that's what I go back. It's not the rain, it's not the cold that I think about. I think
No,
about how many it's just like we were having so much fun being miserable because we were uncomfortable together. What
yes.
happens to our culture, like for Tammy and I with the Grand Canyon, it was together, so that's family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for some companies that we're taking,
Yeah,
it's the culture inside their company.
absolutely. I mean, I think that like the return on investment for doing this with like if you are a CEO or business leader and you have employees, and that's one of the things that we do. So what I'm planning right now is the Virginia Triple Crown with so what we run a program is called Aurelius, and so it's a 12-week program for veterans and first responders. And when they complete the program, and there's a mental health component, physical health component, but when they complete the program, we're doing kind of like a graduation gift, and call it a gift. Yeah, we're gonna go hike 31 miles to the Triple Crown, um, but the goal of that is to just increase that camaraderie, and I think that's something that specifically for the military, they instill that in you. Like
Yeah.
you go to basic training boot camp, like you don't get to text your buddies. You are dialed in, you're locked into what you're doing, and your teammates and people around you, and uh and that's how the military creates that
Mhm.
culture. Um and I think the same thing with business is we had the pavement group team of 10 do that last year, and Brian, the CEO, was continually talking about afterwards how impactful that was, and for months and months afterwards, how the team dynamic has gotten so close. And I think it does go back to being in that uncomfortable space and working as a team through that. I think that builds the culture of your program.
Well, for them, like just you talk about ROI. One of them was getting ready to leave
Mm-hmm.
before that. One of them was getting ready to be fired.
Yeah.
That I've heard, that's the story I heard. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I didn't realize how, like, the one that was getting ready to be fired is in charge of a whole department now.
Yeah. I mean, it can change it. Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
like, really change. And I think even the culture for Tammy and I, because I think it gets instilled in our kids.
Yeah.
It starts pushing down. I mean, I already completed my Masogi for the year, um, which my kids got me for my birthday,
Yeah.
like, which was the marathon, the
Uh-huh.
Pittsburgh Marathon, and like
And it rained that day, didn't it? Rain
it
on them?
did in the
Yeah.
morning. Yeah, of course it did. Of course,
Of course it did. Of course it rained. The last two trips I went on the Appalachian Trail, I had two back-to-back weekends. I was doing
Yeah,
Appalachian Trail trips, and it rained the
yeah.
whole time.
But I will
Thinking,
say it didn't rain like Fuji. Like,
yeah.
we got out of it, and then I was fine the rest of the day. It just got beautiful. But yeah, there was actually more fear for that
Mm-hmm.
than there was for any other trip that I've gone on for you, is because I've, like, you're gonna run, right, and it's with your kids, and it's in an area, like, somebody's gonna get, like, if I go down, if I start puking, if I
Right.
start, like, if I can't complete this, like, and I'm in front of my kids, this could, like, I'm going through all these things in
Yes.
my head, and I'm like, oh, I don't like, it seems and it is uncomfortable. It's like,
Yeah.
crap, man, you got to get there in the morning, like,
Early. Yeah,
yeah.
real
So I
early
had to
for
leave.
the.
I'm 50 minutes from them, and they're
Mm-hmm.
closer to downtown, and I had to be there really early so we could get a parking space. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm even driving down. I'm thinking, man, why the heck
Yeah.
am I doing this to myself? Like, I'm running with kids that are literally less than half my age,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the thoughts go in your head of, oh man, I've had both knees operated on, I broke both ankles, I've, like, this probably
Yeah.
isn't a good idea. And all the people that were why would you do that? But my kids, it was a great present, but that was mine. And I tell you what, I laughed the entire time,
Yeah.
and I'll never forget some of the things I ate during because it's Pittsburgh. I mean, that you've got all the Yinzers
Oh
there
yeah.
that just come out to support the run. It's amazing,
Yeah.
because they know you're uncomfortable,
Yep.
and it's all the enthusiasm around things. And you know I'm in mile one and somebody's handing out Twizzlers and I'm just like,
Oh, I'll take one of those.
these today.
Yeah.
I'm burning so many calories.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, surely. Well, thank you. I'll have another.
Yeah.
And and that was the mile in, and I'm already like dreading it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, like, but it's again, it's the mindset. Like if you, the more you do those things, the more that plays into down the road. I mean, how many athletes do you know? Like when you go into something, it, I don't care what kind of athletic you do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sport, whatever. You have to have that mindset because you've always been uncomfortable with something, whether it's a
Yeah.
new skill, whether it's, man,
And I actually, I had the benefit. I wrestled at the University of Nebraska, and I was our 174 pounder, and our 165 pounder was a guy named Jordan Burroughs, who, if anybody's like in the wrestling world, he was pound for pound the best wrestler in the world for almost a decade.
Yeah.
He's a multiple time national champion. He's a multiple time world Olympic champ.
yeah,
And he made a living off the tagline "Embrace the grind." He would put it on T-shirts, and that was really the mindset. I mean, every day practice is embrace the grind. And what is the grind? Is the grind's everything that goes into competing, right? You wake up early, you're doing stadium steps at 6 a.m, then you have a lift, and then you're in the summertime we do 30-minute, we call them grind matches. It's 30 minutes of live wrestling. So you're wrestling till you can barely
yeah.
stand up. And there's two ways to do that, and you either quit or you embrace that. And I mean, he became a multiple time world and Olympic champion. So
I was on mile 3 of the half marathon, in Pittsburgh that we did. And it dawned on me, and I said to my son and my daughter-in-law, I was like, and this was your birthday. Happy birthday to me.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
But it was like, because we all did it together. We stayed
Mhm.
together, we ran together. It was a lot of fun, something we'll always have.
Yeah.
I can't get that in a trophy or anything
No,
like that. It's
yeah.
that time that we connected and went through that. And I remember one time, I'm just after the Twizzler thing, I'm on high alert.
Right.
Who else is
Who
being
else
an
is-
outfood?
yes.
Who else is being my best friend today?
Yes.
And there was this one place. Again, I'm going to give credit to kind of a Pittsburgh thing, Peace, Love, and Little Donuts. Right?
Oh yeah.
They're handing out free donuts, and I'm like, hey, I'm good
Those
today
donuts
because
are
I'm burning
something
lots
else,
of
man.
calories. And I actually asked because I didn't want to get my hopes up. I'm like, this dude's over there. He's bringing out a whole box of donuts, and this was, I remember it. It was about mile 10 or 11.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I don't want to get my hopes up too much because this would really taste good.
Yeah.
And I walked over. I'm like, you giving those away? He's like, absolutely. And I grabbed. My kids didn't see me. They kept running, and I caught up to them. But I remember turning it around, and I kept running, so
Yeah.
I've got chocolate all over.
Yeah,
My face.
yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I mean,
Fueling up, baby. I got to getting fuel, man.
You go through that. Again, going back to culture, you go through that discomfort together. It brings you closer together. It creates a bond. So I think it's good that you talked about that and mentioned that. So one of the other things that's in the book, let me jump to it. Here it is here. So this is whole, and I'm going to give you the Caleb and Eric version of that. You can always get the book, but this is kind of the watered down practical piece here. They talked about the Savannah theory of happiness, meaning, and here's what kind of the general meaning, right, folks? There's more to it than this. Basically, when population density is too high, the general rule of thumb is the higher the population density, wherever that person is, the less happy they'll likely be. Stressing more the importance of getting out, doing something, being where your feet are planted, but getting out even in nature, right? The importance of that, you've seen it, you've got several examples of that.
Yeah.
Because this is a lot of what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about that theory?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what you see. New York City is never listed as one of the happiest places to live in the U.S. You know what I mean? And I think he talks about like the tribal, there's like an actual number.
Yeah, 150.
150.
Dunbar's rule.
Yeah, Dunbar's rule. So 150 is like the prime number, and then once you start getting above that, um, you have all these other factors, and it's decreasing happiness. And I definitely agree with that. I think you need your tribe, right? You need your group of people that are around you and support you. But you need to reduce the clutter in your mind, and I just feel like when it's that the rule to happiness is, yeah, when there's so many people around you, so many things going on, it's clutter, right? And that's even, personally, like I always hear the if you're stressed out, clean your house, clean the office,
Right.
get your space, make your bed,
Make your bed.
get your personal area taken care of, and that starts to reduce the clutter. And that's for me is like, all right, getting out, getting into nature, and just it's just a reducing the mind clutter,
Yeah.
and
Because how you probably don't get it as much as I do. I don't know though, because I don't know if I've ever asked you this point blank, but maybe you could provide some examples. I know for me, a lot of people say, "Why are you doing that? Why would you do that? Why would you?"
yeah,
I don't, and maybe it's because of the other stuff that I'm doing. Maybe it's more appropriate. They expect it out of you because that's what you do. Um, but my rebuttal to that is, why wouldn't I do it?
yeah,
Is that a, what do you think
yeah. And
about
I
that?
think and another thing from Jet that Jesse talks about a lot is like the life resume,
Yeah.
right? And so, when you're on your deathbed, and you're looking back at your life, a lot of times you're not going to regret the things that you did. You may have some regrets of things you did, but more often than not, it's you're going to regret the things that you didn't do. And for me, like my dream since I was a little kid is guiding. I love doing this, um and so that's why I want to, I feel better. Like I feel better about myself. I feel my confidence, my self-esteem is higher, like when you climb Mount Washington, when you climb Mount Whitney, when you climb Fuji, when you climb Kilimanjaro, when you go to Nepal. I mean, it doesn't have to be those things, but um, it's filling my bucket,
Hmm.
and then sharing that with other people like compounds that, like when I just like how our relationship has grown so much since we did Fuji together is, you get to share that experience with other people and see it in them and how they grow. And I think I told you this once before, but I had a client. He lost 100 pounds, wanted to do a bike. We were biking the Gap,
Right. Right.
and and again, of course, it's Western Pennsylvania. It was cold and wet, and he didn't want to continue. And um and I basically told him, like, when you get through this, you're gonna remember this for the rest of your life. This is something that you're gonna have forever. And he texted my wife and I the next day, and it was like, five thumb scrolls long of just like, hey, thank you so much. Like, you're right. Like, I'm so proud of myself how I got through that, and I will have that for the rest of my life. And I think that's, that is just like, and it's like the icing on top for me, because I get to experience these things. I get to have these kind of moments of just myself pushing myself to do these things, and then sharing that with other people and having them kind of then, oh, the light bulb turns on, and then they're bought into this, and it's just this kind of like movement, and it's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
So I want to ask you to end because somebody got you tell a great story of when you were younger.
Yeah,
And it's a story that, about you and your dad, what he told you.
yeah.
Okay.
This
So
is this is
I want you to, that's how I want to end the podcast
okay.
today because it's very inspiring. And I've heard you tell that at least 7 or 8 times to people, and I still love
Yeah.
you telling it because it's very inspiring. So that's
Yeah,
how
and
it
I
went.
I probably I've told it so many times to other people. I should probably like call my dad and thank him on the way home, because I don't know how often I talk to him about it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's something that stayed with me significantly through my time at Nebraska. We had one of the best recruiting classes in the nation in
Hmm.
Nebraska, um, and and I wasn't supposed to say this at my graduation because we had recruits and stuff there. Like, and so, but um, we were the top three recruiting class in the country, and there was just two of us from that. There were 17 of us that started. There was two of us that graduated, from Nebraska, and wrestled the whole time, like
Yeah.
didn't quit. And and so the story essentially, when I was in middle school, and we we were climbing a mountain. We were with my dad and his two friends, and then they both had their sons there, and then my dad and my brother. And so we were kind of climbing, and so we were camping along the way, and so we were getting ready to go to Summit, to Summit. And again, it was really cold, and it was rainy, and there was some exposure, which, like, when you're hiking or climbing, exposure is essentially something that, if you slip, fall, it could be fatal. And so it's scary, and so one by one, the group kind of started shrinking, right, until where it was eventually, it was just me and my dad left. And um and I remember, like, being real whiny, like, Dad, I don't want to do this. I want to just go
Yeah.
back. Like, and it is like, comfort's like a drug. It feels good, but too much of it, it'll destroy you. But at the time, I'm like, I just want to be comfortable. I'm so uncomfortable right now. I don't want to keep doing this. And my dad, like, he said the same thing to me that I said to that client. He said, if you do this, you will remember this for the rest of your life. And I remember I was in middle school, or I was in middle school. I was going into high school, and I wanted to be on the varsity wrestling team. And he said, wrestling is there are so many hard things that are going to come your way that you're going to have to get through. And having this experience, getting to the top of this mountain, that's something that you'll have for the rest of your life. And it is translated into so many different aspects of my life. It's something that I took with me. And at my college graduation, like, ceremony, I got an award, and I got to speak in front of in front of everybody. And I shared that story. And so I was like, that was something that was so impactful to me. I remembered it, like, vividly, from middle school until I was a college graduate. And then, now we run a nonprofit. There's all these different projects that we're working on. And there's so much clutter and things going on, that it's just one thing that just you have to hold on to. And the more you can experience that, um, the more you grow. And so that's what I try to share with people. And more times than not, you know, when I share that, and the clients are able to get through this, and they, and they do, they it's like a light bulb goes off, and they recognize, like, wow, like, thank you, that, and now they have it. And then hopefully one day they'll share it with somebody else, and so.
All right. Well, let's end on that.
Yeah.
'Cause I love it. I mean, I love that. And maybe I didn't realize you hadn't thanked him yet. I've
I guess
always
I
heard that
thanked him
story.
he was at my college
Okay. Well,
graduation.
so
So I did thank him in front
give
of
him
all
the
those
props.
people, but yeah.
But good for you, good for your dad. But yeah, I mean, hopefully you got something out of this, folks. That's all for today. I know it's always a good time when we talk, and it's always a good time to talk and think about, what's the next thing.
Yeah.
People need, like, more purpose. We need to get, we can't just all become comfortable. We need stretched in ways, just in all kind of different ways. So you've heard it today. Go back, listen to it again. But if you want more information, you can look us up, centerforvictory.com, and actually hit that little experiences if you want to know.
Yeah, check 'em
we've
out.
got we've still got a few spaces open for the canyon this year. Few spaces open for Glacier, and who knows, whatever we're gonna do here in the Pittsburgh area. We're doing hikes
Every Saturday.
almost every Saturday. So that's it. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make today your best day yet.